In an era defined by geopolitical tensions and evolving diplomatic relationships, Secretary of State Marco Rubio finds himself at the center of a whirlwind of international negotiations and political maneuvering. Recently, he has been instrumental in shaping U.S. foreign policy as the Biden administration grapples with complex issues ranging from the ongoing conflict in Ukraine to the challenges posed by Iran and Venezuela. Rubio's recent interview on CBS's Face the Nation highlighted his engagement with Russia amid the ongoing war in Ukraine. During discussions with Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov, Rubio expressed cautious optimism regarding a potential meeting between President Trump and Vladimir Putin. "If those papers have ideas on them that are realistic and rational, then I think we know we've made progress," Rubio stated, underscoring the urgency of moving beyond mere dialogue to actionable outcomes. The U.S. administration is keen to test whether Russia is genuinely interested in peace negotiations, particularly given the significant humanitarian costs of the conflict. "We don't want to be involved in this process of just endless talks. There has to be some progress," he emphasized. As Rubio prepares to attend the inaugural Mass of Pope Leo XIV, the first American pontiff in Vatican City, he is also navigating delicate diplomatic waters surrounding the Vatican's offer to mediate talks between Ukraine and Russia. This development adds a layer of complexity to U.S. diplomacy as the Vatican seeks to position itself as a neutral ground for discussions which could potentially facilitate a breakthrough in the conflict. In a related vein, the Biden administration's response to the humanitarian crisis in Venezuela is also critical. Rubio vehemently disagreed with the intelligence community's assessment that the Tren de Aragua gang operates independently of the Maduro regime, arguing instead that the gang is a tool of the government used to project power abroad. "This is a prison gang that the Venezuelan government has actively encouraged to leave the country," he asserted, highlighting the regime's broader strategy of using violence to suppress dissent. Moreover, Rubio addressed the escalating tensions in the Middle East, particularly regarding Israel's military actions in Gaza. He reaffirmed U.S. support for Israel while also advocating for a resolution that considers the humanitarian impacts on civilians. "We support a future for the people of Gaza that is free of Hamas and full of opportunity," he stated, reflecting the administration's dual commitment to Israel's security and the welfare of Palestinian civilians. Looking ahead, the geopolitical landscape is poised for further shifts as the administration grapples with the ramifications of its current diplomatic efforts. With Rubio at the helm of these initiatives, the potential for either significant breakthroughs or setbacks looms large. The urgency of the moment is palpable as the U.S. navigates a complex web of alliances and rivalries in an increasingly polarized world. As events unfold in the coming weeks, all eyes will be on whether Rubio's diplomatic endeavors yield tangible progress in these critical global arenas. In a striking intersection of sports and politics, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has been named the Grand Marshal for the Coca-Cola 600, a notable event in the NASCAR calendar set to take place on May 25, 2025. This announcement comes as Hegseth's tenure at the Pentagon is marked by significant controversies, including a recent purge of senior staff amid allegations of intelligence leaks. Hegseth, who has been an outspoken figure in the Trump administration, has garnered attention for his dual role as a defense leader and a public figure in the realm of popular culture. The Coca-Cola 600 is not just another race. It's a celebration of American motorsport that draws thousands of fans and showcases the intersection of community and national pride. By serving as the Grand Marshal, Hegseth is expected to leverage the platform to connect with a broad audience, highlighting both his military background and his political affiliations. However, Hegseth's time at the Pentagon has been marred by a series of dismissals and administrative leave for key advisors, reportedly linked to investigations into classified information leaks. This internal reshuffle has raised questions about leadership stability within the Department of Defense. At this time, no final senior staffing changes have been decided, and the Secretary will make any future announcements on his own timetable, a senior defense official stated, reflecting the uncertainty surrounding Hegseth's team. The defense secretary's leadership style has also come under scrutiny as reports indicate conflicts with recently dismissed advisors which stemmed from differences in personal dynamics rather than policy disagreements. Joe didn't like those guys, an insider shared, pointing to a personality clash that has contributed to the current reshuffling of staff. This turbulent environment follows a troubling history of leaks within the Pentagon, such as the case involving Massachusetts Air National Guard member Jack Teixeira, who leaked classified documents on a private Discord server, leading to his sentencing in federal court. Meanwhile, Hegseth is not just under fire for internal matters, he is also at the center of a heated debate regarding the treatment of transgender service members. With the Trump administration's renewed efforts to ban transgender individuals from serving in the military, advocates argue this decision undermines military readiness and could exacerbate existing recruitment challenges. Former service members like Commander Emily Schilling and Kristen Beck, who have served with distinction, face potential dismissal under these new policies. Critics contend that this move represents a broader strategy to erase diversity from the military ranks, labeling it an ethical failure that jeopardizes national security. As Hegseth prepares to take center stage at the Coca-Cola 600, the implications of his actions and policies will likely resonate far beyond the racetrack. The event serves as a reminder of the ongoing cultural and political battles in America, where the intersection of sports, military, and identity politics continues to unfold. Looking ahead, Hegseth's appearance at such a prominent event could serve as a pivotal moment in shaping public perception both of himself and of the administration's policies. As discussions around military readiness and inclusivity persist, all eyes will be on how these intertwined narratives evolve in the coming months. The outcome of Hegseth's initiatives and the administration's approach to diversity in the armed forces will undoubtedly influence the future landscape of American military and civic life. In a striking turn of events for American healthcare policy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was sworn in as the Secretary of Health and Human Services on February 13, 2025, amidst a backdrop of controversy and political division. The ceremony, held at the White House and officiated by Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch, marked the beginning of Kennedy's tenure at the helm of a critical public health department. With a confirmation vote of 52 to 48, Kennedy's appointment elicited strong reactions, particularly from those concerned about his long-standing skepticism regarding vaccines and public health measures. "I'm grateful for this opportunity," Kennedy declared during his swearing-in ceremony, expressing his ambition to tackle the rising rates of chronic illness in the United States. He emphasized his commitment to addressing childhood diseases, stating, "For 20 years I've been up every morning on my knees and praying that God would put me in a position where I can end the childhood chronic disease epidemic in this country." Moreover, Kennedy proclaimed, "God sent me President Trump," underscoring the close ties between the two figures and their shared vision for American health policy. Kennedy's appointment comes at a time when the nation grapples with significant challenges in healthcare access and affordability. President Trump has made waves in this arena by announcing a bold executive order aimed at reforming prescription drug pricing. This initiative seeks to put an end to what Kennedy describes as global free riding on American patients, who often pay exorbitant prices for medications compared to their counterparts in other wealthy nations. For instance, a GLP-1 drug that costs $88 in London can reach upwards of $1,000 in the US even after discounts. In a recent opinion piece published by Fox News, Kennedy articulated a vision for healthcare that balances innovation with affordability. He emphasized that nearly one-third of Americans skip prescribed medications due to costs, a statistic that starkly contrasts with the country's wealth. Kennedy's push for reform is not just about reducing prices, it's a fundamental re-evaluation of how the U.S. healthcare system operates in relation to global markets. "We cannot indefinitely subsidize global medical progress while other wealthy nations contribute disproportionately little," he argued. This reformist agenda is complemented by Kennedy's affiliation with the MAHA movement, or Make America Healthy Again, which has garnered significant support from like-minded advocates advocating for healthier lifestyles and food choices. While Kennedy lacks formal training in medicine or public health, his grassroots following has positioned him as a pivotal figure in the ongoing national dialogue about health and wellness. The opposition to Kennedy's confirmation was fierce, with all Democratic senators and one Republican, Mitch McConnell, voting against him. McConnell, a polio survivor, expressed concerns about Kennedy's vaccine skepticism, a reflection of the deep partisan divides surrounding health policy in the current political landscape. Trump, however, defended Kennedy, framing the opposition as a personal affront, stating, "He's not voting against Bobby. He's voting against me." As Kennedy now oversees key agencies such as the Food and Drug Administration and the National Institutes of Health, the implications of his policies will be closely scrutinized. His commitment to lowering drug prices could reshape the pharmaceutical landscape in America, leading to potential conflicts with industry leaders who have thrived under the current pricing model. Looking ahead, the next few months will be pivotal for Kennedy and the Trump administration as they roll out their healthcare initiatives. The ambitious plans to align drug prices with those of other developed nations could either mark a significant shift in U.S. health policy or ignite further controversy among stakeholders. As Kennedy stated, "The coming months will be decisive in achieving President Trump's prescription for a healthier America, one where innovation thrives and patients no longer shoulder an unfair share of the global healthcare burden." The outcomes of these policies will not only affect American patients but also set a precedent for how the U.S. engages with global health economics in the future. In an intriguing twist of events, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has found herself at the center of a storm of scrutiny following her recent financial transactions involving shares of Trump Media, the parent company of the social media platform Truth Social. The timing of these transactions coincides with significant political developments, raising questions about potential insider trading and ethics within the government. On April 2, the very day President Donald Trump announced a sweeping set of tariffs that sent the stock market into a tailspin, Bondi reportedly sold between $1 million and $5 million worth of shares in Trump Media. According to financial disclosures, the stock price plummeted from a high of $52 to just $26 shortly after the announcement, a staggering 13% drop. In addition to the share sale, Bondi also disposed of warrants valued between $250,000 and $500,000, which typically grant the holder the right to purchase shares in the future. These trades have ignited a firestorm of questions regarding the ethics of her actions, particularly given her position as Attorney General. While Bondi's disclosure forms do not specify the exact timing of these trades, whether they occurred before or after the market closed, legal experts note that trading based on non-public information could be considered a violation of insider trading laws. However, proving such allegations has become increasingly difficult in recent years as courts have narrowed the definition of illegal trading. ProPublica, which first reported on these transactions, highlighted that the Justice Department has not yet responded to inquiries regarding whether Bondi had prior knowledge of Trump's tariff plans before executing her trades. Adding to the complexity of the situation is Bondi's past role as a foreign lobbyist for Qatar, where she earned $115,000 monthly in 2020. Her financial ties to Qatar have raised alarms about potential foreign influence within the U.S. government, especially in light of Trump's reported plan to receive a luxury Boeing 747-8 from the Qatari government. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has voiced concerns over the potential implications of this gift, describing it as an appearance of naked corruption. In a related development, President Trump is preparing to speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky next week regarding the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. This follows a series of talks in Turkey that resulted in an agreement for a prisoner exchange between Russia and Ukraine. Critics have noted that Trump's foreign policy decisions, including recent sanctions lifted on Syria, may have significant impacts on U.S. relations in the region, which could further complicate his administration's stance amid ongoing scrutiny. As these events unfold, the implications for Bondi and the Trump administration are significant. Lawmakers are gearing up for intense scrutiny of Bondi's financial dealings and the broader ethical ramifications of accepting foreign gifts. Meanwhile, Trump's diplomatic engagements signal a pivot in international relations that may influence both his domestic standing and foreign policy strategy in the months to come. The intertwining of these narratives illustrates the complexities and challenges facing the current administration, setting the stage for a tumultuous political landscape as the 2025 election cycle approaches. In a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's ambitious economic rebalancing initiative is facing significant turbulence, particularly as relations with China remain fraught. As the Biden administration explores strategies to mitigate global economic imbalances, recent developments indicate that the path forward is riddled with challenges and uncertainty. Bessent's vision for a big beautiful rebalancing hinges on significant alterations in the economic behaviors of China, the European Union (EU), and the United States. He emphasizes that for true equilibrium to be achieved, each of these major players must adjust their consumption and savings patterns. Specifically, Bessent argues that China must increase its consumption, the EU must abandon its beggar thy neighbor policies, and the United States must elevate its savings rates. However, with America's budget deficit projected to reach $1.8 trillion in 2024, equivalent to 6.4% of GDP, achieving such a transformation appears daunting. To meet Bessent's goal of reducing the deficit to 3%, the U.S. would need to implement approximately $900 billion in budget cuts, a feat that current congressional drafts do not reflect. Tariffs remain a contentious point in this dialogue. While Bessent has previously likened tariffs to a gun on the table, it is becoming clear that they are but one tool among many. Analysts suggest that merely relying on tariffs to balance the budget is a flawed approach. For instance, a 10% tariff could generate around $300 billion annually. Yet this falls short of the drastic cuts needed. Instead, some economists like Michael McNair propose implementing a withholding tax on capital flows to help address the balance of payments more effectively. The implications of these tariff strategies have already begun to reverberate through global markets. Stock markets have shown resilience, with some analysts suggesting that the anticipated damage from tariffs may not be as severe as initially feared. However, as discussions shift from tariffs to more complex financial instruments like withholding taxes or capital controls, the stakes rise considerably. Europe's role in this shifting economic landscape cannot be overlooked. The EU continues to contribute to global imbalances, with U.S. pharmaceutical firms exploiting tax avoidance strategies in Europe. As discussions persist, there is a sense of urgency for European nations to adapt to the impending economic shifts. China, as the world's largest contributor to the global savings imbalance, faces pressure to alter its economic framework significantly. Drawing parallels to Germany's economic adjustments in the 1970s when it increased its budget deficit under U.S. persuasion, Bessent's plan requires unprecedented cooperation and adjustment from all parties involved. The broader geopolitical implications of these economic strategies are profound. With U.S. administrations increasingly recognizing that reliance on China for critical supply chains poses substantial risks, the urgency for a restructured economic framework has never been greater. As one commentator noted, if you rely on China for your military supply chains or for pharmaceuticals, you are the weaker country. As these developments unfold, the intersection of economic policy and geopolitical strategy will be closely watched. President Donald Trump's recent comments urging companies like Walmart to absorb tariff costs rather than passing them on to consumers reflect a growing tension between economic policy and corporate realities. With mounting inflation and uncertainty in consumer sentiment, businesses are wrestling with the ramifications of these tariffs while trying to maintain profitability. Looking ahead, the coming months will be critical as the U.S. sets definitive tariff rates for its trading partners, a move that could further reshape global trade dynamics. As President Trump hinted at during his recent trip to the Middle East, the administration's capacity to negotiate effectively with multiple countries simultaneously remains limited. The future of global trade hinges on whether these nations can navigate the complex interplay of tariffs, economic policy, and geopolitical strategy, ultimately working towards a more balanced and sustainable global economy. In a significant setback for Spokane's burgeoning aerospace technology sector. A $48 million federal grant aimed at fostering innovation and economic growth has been rescinded. This decision has sparked a wave of frustration and condemnation, particularly from local leaders and congressional representatives who argue that the loss of funding will hinder the region's development as a key player in the aerospace industry. The grant was part of a broader initiative designed to support technological advancements and infrastructure improvements in regions across the United States. Spokane, with its strategic location and existing aerospace ecosystem, was poised to benefit substantially from these funds. Local officials had anticipated that the grant would not only enhance the city's technological capabilities but also create jobs and stimulate economic growth in the area. In the wake of this decision, members of Congress have voiced their concerns, with one local representative stating, "This funding was crucial for Spokane to remain competitive in the aerospace arena. Losing it not only affects our current projects but also undermines our future potential." The sentiment among local leaders is that this grant was a vital investment in the region's technological infrastructure, and its cancellation signals a troubling trend in federal support for local innovation. The fallout from this decision extends beyond Spokane, raising questions about the federal government's commitment to supporting regional tech hubs that have been designated as critical to the U.S. economy. Critics argue that the revocation of such significant funding could deter future investments and diminish the United States' competitive edge in aerospace technology. The timing of this announcement coincides with the Commerce Department's recent plans to relaunch its Tech Hubs program, a federal initiative aimed at bolstering regional technological innovation. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick criticized the previous administration's selections, labeling the process as rushed and unfair, and emphasized the need for a more transparent and competitive approach moving forward. This new direction suggests a shift in how federal funding will be allocated, and it raises the stakes for regions like Spokane that are vying for support. As the federal government prepares to reassess its funding strategies, the impact on Spokane and other tech hubs remains to be seen. Local officials are urging a reconsideration of the decision, advocating for the restoration of the grant to ensure that Spokane does not fall behind in the race for technological advancement. Looking ahead, the future of Spokane's aerospace sector and its potential to leverage federal support for innovation will hinge on the outcomes of the newly planned Tech Hubs program and the ongoing dialogue between local leaders and federal officials. As the landscape of federal funding evolves, only time will tell how these developments will shape the trajectory of Spokane's aerospace ambitions.